Scared to death. I'm scared to death about the training that's already here. This is the first summer in San Francisco. No summer school for kids. Can you imagine that? In San Francisco, one of the wealthiest cities, there's no summer school for kids. We're facing a $787 million deficit. I'm not making these numbers up. This is according to the controller. I was at the mayor's State of the City budget speech today, and I was listening to what he had to say. And I know he tried to present an optimistic picture, as you would expect. But I just kept thinking about, what are we going to do? What are we going to do about next year? What are we going to do about this huge budget deficit? What are we going to do about all the program cuts that are getting sliced and diced? I'm talking about services. You know, most community-based programs, whether you think it's good or bad, are getting cut by about 30 to 50%. I just attended a graduation at Potrero for a program there that works with young people. That's their last graduation after 8 or 9 years. And we can accept this and say, it's tough times. Everybody's got to tighten their belt. But what you start realizing, what I realized last year, after tussling a little bit with the Board of Supervisors and the mayor over the public defender's budget, when they proposed that they were going to cut my budget by 1/3, and I just said there's no way that we could continue to represent 28,000 people a year, losing 1/3 of my staff. I started looking at where the money was being spent. I said, wait a minute, the public defender's budget is 1/2 of what the police department spends in overtime. We got a $6.6 billion budget. It's a lot of billions. A lot of dollars there. And I started looking at where the money was being spent. And one of the things, among others, I saw a big ticket item for pension and benefit costs for city employees. Do you know we're spending $1.2 billion this year on pension and health care costs for city employees? Do you know that that number is going to double, according to the controller, in 5 years? Almost double, to about $2.2 billion. That means out of every 5 tax dollars, today 1 is being spent on employee pensions and health care costs. Next year, or within 5 years, it'll be 2. And just to give some perspective, right? What's one of the biggest problems we have in our city here? Right? If you drive your car around. Potholes. Yeah. You know, I was at an event with some folks from out of town in San Francisco, and they were telling me that they don't even drive their cars to San Francisco. I never heard this before, because of potholes. Now, how much do we spend fixing potholes in San Francisco? Does anybody know? Take a guess. It's a lot of money. $42 million is what we spend. How much do we spend on retiree pension? $522 million is what we spent this year. And it's going up every year. You see, the difference is, I'm a city employee. Maybe some of you are city employees. If you're not a city employee, and you're lucky enough to have a 401, if your portfolio went down 30% in the stock market, you're out 30%. Tough luck. Because I'm a city employee, I have a pension fund. It has to be filled up every year to 97%. Every year. So if my pension fund goes down, the taxpayers got to fill it up. So how much are you paying this year? $525 million. How much next year? $625 million. How much the year after? $675 million. That's the same amount it costs to run San Francisco General Hospital for a year. How long will it go up? Within 6 years, according to the retirement board that oversees the pension fund, San Francisco would pay $818 million a year just for retirement pension costs. You see, because when you read out in the papers, you know, that they had the story about the police officer, not even the police chief, earned $516,000 last year. Some of you might have seen that article in the Chronicle on front page Sunday. See, not only does he get the $516,000, but you also earn, if you're a police or firefighter, 90% guaranteed for the rest of your life of your last year's earning, for the rest of your life. So for a firefighter or a police officer who earns $200,000 a year, and there's quite a few that earn $180,000, $200,000 a year, you actually get 90% of that for the rest of your lifetime. It comes out to about $4.5 million over your lifetime. So I'm not telling you this so you're outraged at city workers like myself. I've been a city worker my whole career. But I'm here to say that we got to do something about this, because it is the definition of insanity to do the same thing year after year after year and not do anything about it. And this is not a problem that's only in San Francisco. It's something that's happened everywhere. Why? Because we promise more than what we can pay. You know, in the 50s and 60s, it was understood that if you worked for the government, you took a little cut in pay. And so you got a pension. And the idea was that a pension was like compensation. And you would receive compensation in the form of a pension to make you whole, since you're not making as much. But according to a study that was just done, and this was actually reported in the same article in the Chronicle, today government employees earn 20% more than their counterparts in the private sector. So again, I mean, what that means is that if you're my next door neighbor, you work in the private sector, and my pension fund goes down, I can knock on your door, and I can say, hey Charlie, hey Rich, come on now. You know, if my pension comes down, you gotta make it whole again. And the taxpayers have to fill it up. And it's coming to the exclusion of vital services to our city. There's something out of whack when we're spending almost $500 million a year in healthcare costs for a group of city employees. And we don't have enough money to run the schools. It's a separate budget, that's understood, but we don't have any money in our reserve. When we're at a point when you think about what it costs to run the city, and the lion's share of that is going to essentially pay 50,000 people. So what's my point here? That unless we do something, the whole thing is going to explode at some point. It is. Because we're not going to be able to pay it. Even the pensions that we're paying now